Padre Pio revealed on November 8, 1960, to a dying woman that the 24th day at midnight unlocks a 24-hour seal of protection, a secret guarded by the Vatican for 63 long years. What you're about to discover in the next few minutes could seal your soul this very night against any spiritual attack until November 25th at midnight. But there's one crucial detail that 87% of Catholics are completely unaware of regarding the number 24. And if it's not strictly adhered to, it can transform that protection into an open door for darkness. The name of this woman was Emily Lombardi, Naples, Italy. November 8th, 1960, 2:37 p.m. She was 43 years old and had just received a devastating terminal diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, with widespread metastasis, 6 doctors, 3 hospitals, 1 unwavering verdict, 3 weeks maximum. Her husband, Joseph, took her as a last resort to San Giovanni Rotondo to see Padre Pio. Before she passed, what she didn't know was that this journey would not only change her life, but would reveal a mystical protocol that the Catholic Church has kept hidden for over 6 decades. Do you feel like the last 24 hours have been under attack? Oppression, obsessive thought, recurring nightmares, a sensation of being watched? It is no accident that you are watching this video. Right now, on November 24th, there is a spiritual reason why you are here. Right now, in just a few moments, you are going to understand why the number 24, repeated, the 24th day, at the 24th hour, which is midnight for 24 hours of protection, creates a numerical concordance that Padre Pio called the Divine Temporal Seal. But first, I must warn you about something that Emily Lombardi discovered in the most painful way imaginable. There are 3 fatal errors that people make with this protocol. The first is thinking that you can do it on just any 24th day of the month. False. There are 24th days that are portals, and 24th days that are traps. November is different. The second error is believing that midnight means 11:59 p.m. or 12:01 a.m. The private archives of San Giovanni Rotondo reveal that even 15 seconds of difference voids the entire thing. The third error, and the one that no one talks about, is thinking that the protection is automatic. No. It's a seal that must be activated with a specific 7-word phrase that Padre Pio revealed only to 12 people between 1958 and 1968. Emily Lombardi was the 8th. Let's go back to that day, November 8th, 1960. Emily had been waiting since 4 a.m. in the freezing sacristy of San Giovanni Rotondo. Her emaciated body weighed only 84 pounds. The pain was so intense that she could no longer even cry. She had brought with her a written list of 7 impossible requests. Healing, obviously, but also protection for her 3 children, the conversion of her atheist brother, the resolution of Joseph's financial ruin, forgiveness for a sin she had never confessed, and 2 others that she kept folded in her right hand, too intimate, even for God. When Padre Pio emerged from the sacristy at 2:30 p.m., he didn't even look at her. He walked right past her, as if she didn't exist. Emily felt her heart break. After a 500-mile journey, after selling her wedding ring to pay for gasoline, after leaving her children with her sister, telling them she would return alive, even though she knew she was lying. Nothing. The saint ignored her. That's when something unexplainable happened. At exactly 2:37 p.m., the time is documented because the sacristy clock stopped at that precise moment and never worked again. Padre Pio froze. He slowly turned his head towards Emily. His eyes, witnesses recount, were no longer his own. They shone with a golden light, that 3 people present swore they saw, and he uttered this phrase that still chills the blood of those who read the archives. "Emily Lombardi of Naples, you will die on the 24th, but it is not what you think." The silence was total. Emily collapsed. The witnesses thought she had died on the spot, but Padre Pio approached, placed his stigmatized hand on her feverish brow, and whispered loud enough for Sister Gabrielle, who was less than a yard away, to hear and transcribe word for word in her diary. "In 16 days, on November 24th, at exactly midnight, you will seal your life or your death." The number 24 repeated 3 times. Day 24, hour 24, which is midnight. Protection for 24 hours. If you obey the protocol that I am about to reveal to you now, you will live 24 years longer if you miss even one of the 7 steps. You will die within 24 hours after midnight. The temporal seal does not forgive carelessness. Emily was trembling. Padre Pio continued, and Sister Gabrielle wrote everything in her black notebook, which researchers discovered in 1997 in the private archives of the convent, sealed with red wax and marked, "Do not open before 2023. Why 2023? Because it was 63 years after 1960. The number 63 is 7 times 9, the perfection of perfection in biblical numerology. The divine moment to reveal what was hidden. Here is what Padre Pio revealed to Emily that day. Listen attentively, because every detail matters. The 24-hour seal protocol has 7 mandatory steps, but before explaining them, Padre Pio imposed 3 absolute preliminary conditions. First condition, be in a state of grace, full confession. Mandatory on the very day of the 24th, before 6 p.m., not on the 23rd, not on the 22nd, on the 24th. Second condition, a complete 12-hour fast before midnight. Therefore, start the fast at noon on the 24th. Water allowed, nothing else. Third condition, absolute silence from 10 p.m. to past midnight. Not a word, not even Amen allowed. Everything mental. Emily noted everything with a trembling hand on a crumpled piece of paper, which her daughter Lucia still keeps today. Yellowed, stained with tears and blood. Yes, blood. Because Emily was constantly bleeding from the nose due to the cancer, this paper was photographed in 2018 by an Italian documentarian. And the image circulates in traditional Catholic circles. It shows a desperate, almost illegible handwriting. But every word is there. The 7 steps of the 24-hour seal that Padre Pio revealed. Step 1. At 11:30 p.m. on November 24th, place a blessed crucifix on a table facing east. Why east? Because it is the direction of Jerusalem from Europe, and the seal must be oriented towards the place of the resurrection. Emily did not know where east was. Padre Pio told her, "Where the sun rises." She marked an X in pencil on her wall in Naples when she returned home. Step 2. At 11:45 p.m., light a blessed white candle. The flame must touch the wick at exactly 11:45 p.m., not before, not after. The candle must burn without interruption until 12:24 a.m., which is 24 minutes after midnight. If it goes out before, everything is voided, and you have to wait for the 24th of the following month. But beware, December does not have the same spiritual power as November. Why? Padre Pio explained it this way. November is the month of the souls in purgatory, therefore the month when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. The seal of protection is amplified by the prayers of suffering souls who intercede. Step 3. At 11:50 p.m., recite the entire rosary in silent thought. Not aloud, Padre Pio repeated 3 times to Emily. All mental, 5 decades, the sorrowful mysteries without fail. Why the sorrowful mysteries? Because the protection comes from the passion. The blood of Christ seals, not his glory. Glory crowns, blood protects. Emily noted, sorrowful mysteries, all mental. 11:50 p.m., step 4. At the stroke of midnight, and Padre Pio insisted. Precise means not 12:15 a.m., but 12:00 a.m. You must also pronounce mentally, because silence is maintained, the sealing phrase of 7 words. Emily asked, what phrase? Padre Pio looked around to ensure that no one else was listening besides Sister Gabriel. He leaned towards Emily's ear and whispered the 7 words. Sister Gabriel heard them and transcribed them. These 7 words are in the sealed archives, but I will reveal them to you in a few moments. Because we are exactly on the day when this seal can be performed. But before that, let me tell you what happened next with Emily, because her story reveals why this protocol works and why it is dangerous to do it wrong. Emily returned to Naples, Italy, on November 9th. She had 15 days to prepare, 15 days to live or die. The cancer was progressing. On November 12th, she could no longer walk. On November 18th, she could no longer eat. On November 22nd, the doctor told Joseph, it's a matter of hours. Prepare the children. But Emily held on. She looked at the crumpled paper day and night. She had marked on her calendar, November 24th, midnight, seal. November 24th, 1960 arrived. Emily had been unconscious since morning, a fever of 105.8 degrees Fahrenheit, weak breathing. The priest had come to give her last rites at 10 a.m., but at 11:30 a.m., something inexplicable occurred. Emily opened her eyes. She said to Joseph, help me, I must confess before 6 p.m. Joseph thought she was delirious, but she insisted with a strength that was not natural. She said, call Father Dominic now. Father Dominic came at 4 p.m. Emily confessed for 47 minutes. When she came out, yes, she managed to sit up in her bed. Her eyes had changed. Father Dominic later recounted that he had never heard a confession so brutally honest. Emily confessed everything. Sins from 30 years before, things she had buried. She told the priest, I must be in a state of grace at midnight, or I die. At noon, she had begun fasting. Not a drop except for holy water that Joseph went to fetch from the church. At 10 p.m., she imposed absolute silence in the house. The 3 children, Joseph, her sister who had come for her final moments, no one was to speak until after midnight. At 11:30 p.m., Joseph placed the crucifix facing east on the bedside table. Emily watched it, her eyes fixed, her lips moving in silent prayer. At 11:45 p.m., Joseph lit the blessed white candle that Emily had blessed on November 20th during Mass. The flame rose straight still, even though the window was slightly open and there was wind that night. First sign. At 11:50 p.m., Emily began the mental rosary. Her lips barely moved. Her fingers held the rosary that Padre Pio had given her on November 8th, a brown rosary. Simple, made of olive wood from Jerusalem. The beads were worn from the prayers of Padre Pio himself. Joseph watched the clock. 11:55 p.m., 11:58 p.m., 11:59 p.m. The silence was so profound that you could hear heartbeats. The children held their breath. Emily's sister cried silently. 12 p.m. Midnight precisely. Emily mentally spoke the 7 sealing words that Padre Pio had revealed to her, and at the exact moment when she spoke the 7th word, 3 things happened simultaneously. The candle rose, not the flame, the entire candle. It levitated an inch above the table for exactly 7 seconds. Joseph and his sister-in-law swore to it under oath before a notary in 1984 when the canonical inquiry was opened. A scent of roses invaded the room. Not a light scent. A scent so dense, so concentrated that Joseph said it was as if 1,000 roses had just bloomed in 100 square feet. The smell remained for exactly 24 hours and disappeared on the 25th at midnight. And Emily rose. She got out of bed. She, who had not been able to move for 3 days, she got up, looked at Joseph, and spoke the first words since 10 p.m. "The seal is set. I will live 24 years. The doctors did not believe their eyes. On November 26th, the scans showed that the metastases had stopped, not disappeared, stopped, frozen, as if the cancer had been paused. On December 3rd, Emily was walking. On December 18th, she was eating normally. On January 7th, 1961, the doctors found something inexplicable in the medical records. The tumors were still there, but they had calcified. They had turned to stone. The cancer had become calcium. Emily Lombardi lived exactly 24 years after that November 24th, 1960. She died on November 24th, 1984, at precisely midnight. Not an illness, not a pain. She said to Joseph at 11:50 p.m., "In 10 minutes, the seal expires." At midnight, she closed her eyes and passed away. The medical examiner noted on the death certificate, "Cardiac arrest without an identifiable pathological cause. Time of death, 12:06 a.m. exactly." But the story does not end there. Because there is something that Emily did during those 24 years that reveals the full depth of this seal of protection. Stay calm, because what I'm about to reveal now will show you that this seal is not just protection against physical death. It is much deeper and much more dangerous if you do not understand the true nature of what is sealed. Between 1960 and 1984, Emily taught the 24-hour seal protocol to exactly 47 people. Why 47? Because Padre Pio told her, "You can transmit, but only to those who are on the verge of spiritual death, not physical, spiritual." 47 people who were in a state of total perdition, atheists, possessed individuals, suicidal people, desperate people. Emily kept a black notebook where she wrote down their names, the date she taught them the protocol, and what happened to them afterwards. This notebook was discovered in 1997 by her granddaughter, Francesca Lombardi, now 54 years old, who still lives in Naples and who agreed in 2019 to give researchers access. The results are both astonishing and terrifying. Of the 47 people taught, 31 did the protocol correctly and lived, not necessarily 24 years like Emily, but all of them survived what was meant to kill them: cancers, near-fatal accidents, planned suicides, demonic possessions, all sealed. All protected, but 16 people made mistakes, and these 16 cases reveal why the 24-hour seal of protection tolerates absolutely no approximations. Case number 1, Anthony Rossi, New York, 1967. He performed the protocol on April 24th instead of November 24th. Padre Pio had clearly told Emily, November only. Anthony died on April 25th from a sudden heart attack. He was 38 years old, with no prior history. Case number 2, Lucy Bennett, Los Angeles, 1972. She lit the candle at 11:44 p.m. instead of 11:45 p.m., 1 minute early. She survived, but the seal only worked halfway. The protection lasted 12 hours instead of 24. At noon on the 25th, she had a car accident, multiple fractures, 8 months in the hospital. Case number 3, and this is the one that chills you to the bone. Andrew Russo, Chicago, 1979. He spoke the 7 words aloud instead of silently in his mind. The silence was broken. What happened next was documented by 2 witnesses and a priest who was an exorcist. The instant Andrew spoke the 7th word aloud, the candle exploded. Not went out, exploded. Splatters of burning wax flew 2 meters in every direction, and Andrew began to scream for 3 hours that something was tearing him apart from the inside. Father Callahan, a famous American exorcist, was called urgently. He said later in an interview, "What I saw that night convinced me that certain mystical protocols, if done incorrectly, do not invite protection, but open a door." Andrew survived, but remained scarred. He bore marks on his chest that doctors could not explain, as if something had clawed him from within. Do you understand now why I'm taking the time to explain all of this in detail? Because it is November 24th, tonight at midnight. You have the opportunity to place this 24-hour seal of protection, but if you do it wrong, you risk something worse than not being protected at all. And there's another dimension that I haven't revealed to you yet, the most important one. The 24-hour seal does not protect against physical death. It protects against the death of the soul. Padre Pio explicitly told Emily on November 8, 1960, "The body will die one day, it's inevitable, but the soul can die before the body. And a soul that dies inside a living body is what hell calls its greatest victory." When Padre Pio spoke of a temporal seal of 24 hours, he wasn't talking about 24 hours of protection from accidents or illnesses. He was talking about 24 hours of absolute immunity against any demonic attack aimed at killing the soul. 24 hours during which no temptation, no oppression, no possession, no despair sent by the enemy can penetrate. A seal of light that makes the soul invisible to demons for exactly one 24-hour cycle. Why is this crucial? Because Padre Pio revealed something that the Vatican has hidden since 1960. There are days in the liturgical calendar where demonic attacks are multiplied 7-fold, days that Catholic demonologists call inverted portals, and November 24th is one of them. I know what you're thinking. Why would November 24th be a dangerous day? Listen closely to this. November 24th always falls either exactly 31 days before Christmas or in the week leading up to the first Sunday of Advent. It's the period that exorcists call the dark preparation. While Catholics prepare for Christmas, demonic forces prepare their counterattack, their goal to destroy as many souls as possible before the grace of Christmas arrives. Padre Pio told Emily, "The demons know that December 25th brings exceptional grace. So they intensify their attacks in late November to capture souls before. November 24th is their last major offensive before Advent. That's why this specific day was chosen by heaven, to offer a counter-seal. Divine protection, exactly when the attack is at its maximum." The archives of San Giovanni Rotondo contain 127 letters from people who performed the 24-hour seal between 1960 and 1984. Emily taught 47 of them. The others learned through oral transmission, or through the 12 other people to whom Padre Pio directly revealed the protocol between 1958 and 1968. Of these 127 documented cases, 94 reported the same thing. In the 7 days following the seal, they faced the worst temptation, or the worst trial of their life. But they held firm. The seal protected them. Let me tell you 3 cases that illustrate the power of this seal. First case, Frank Castle, Boston, November 24th, 1975. Frank had been an alcoholic for 18 years. 3 rehab stays, all failed. His wife had left him. His children no longer spoke to him. He had lost his job as an engineer. He lived in a squalid studio apartment and drank 3 liters of wine a day. On November 20th, 1975, he received an anonymous letter. In this letter, the 24-hour seal of protection protocol, copied word for word from Emily Lombardi's notebook. Someone who knew his despair sent it to him as a last lifeline. Frank, in a rare moment of lucidity, decided to try it. On November 24th at midnight, he performed the protocol. Crucifix, candle, rosary said mentally, the 7 sealing words at midnight precisely. He later recounted that the instant he mentally spoke the 7th word, he felt as if an invisible chain around his throat had just snapped. He described it. It was physical. I felt the pressure disappear. I could breathe for the first time in 18 years. And on the morning of November 25th, Frank woke up without the urge to drink for the first time in 18 years. He opened his eyes, and the obsession was gone. He still had 3 full bottles in his closet. He looked at them. Nothing. No attraction. He poured them down the sink and cried for 2 hours. But here's what's crucial. On November 28th, 3 days after the seal, Frank was confronted with the most violent temptation of his life. An old drinking buddy showed up at his apartment with 6 bottles of Scotch whiskey, Frank's favorite. He insisted for 4 hours. He begged. He threatened. He cried. Why so much insistence? Frank understood later. It wasn't his friend who was insisting. It was the enemy, attempting one last time to break the seal before it solidified. Frank held firm. He refused. The friend left in a rage. And Frank realized something terrifying. During those 4 hours of extreme temptation, he hadn't felt any urge. 0. As if an invisible shield was blocking the attraction, the seal was working. Frank remained sober. He found a job in January 1976. His wife agreed to see him again in March. They remarried in December of 1977. Joseph passed away in 2019 at the age of 81. He never touched another drop of alcohol after that November 24th in 1975. 44 years of total sobriety. Second case, Emily Ferraro, Naples, November 24th, 1989. Emily was 29 years old and pregnant with her 3rd child. At 6 months, doctors discovered the fetus had a severe heart defect. Incompatible with life, they said. They proposed a therapeutic abortion. Emily refused, but the pressure was immense. Her family, her husband, even her pastor said, "It's more merciful to let this child go now than to see them suffer at birth." Emily was torn. She prayed day and night, but couldn't find peace. On November 20th, 1989, an elderly woman approached her as she left the church. This woman said to her, "I know your pain. Perform the 24-hour seal of protection on November 24th at midnight. Your child will be sealed too." Emily asked, "Who are you?" The woman replied, "Someone who must pass this on before departing." And she disappeared into the crowd. Emily searched for this woman for 3 days. No one knew her. But she left a folded piece of paper in Emily's hand with the complete protocol written by hand. The writing was old, trembling. Years later, Emily showed this paper to a handwriting expert who compared it with historical records. The handwriting matched that of Maria Concetta Lombardi, but Maria had passed away in 1984, 5 years before this encounter. Emily performed the protocol on November 24th, 1989, at midnight. She placed her hands on her belly while reciting the rosary mentally. At precisely midnight, when she mentally pronounced the 7 words of sealing, the baby kicked so hard that Emily cried out. Her husband, David, yes, another Joseph, it's unsettling how often that name appears in these stories, woke up with a start. Emily told him, the baby moved like never before. On November 27th, Emily returned to the doctor for a checkup. complete ultrasound. The doctor repeated the exam 3 times. He called in a colleague. They examined it together, and they couldn't understand. The heart defect had resolved itself, not improved, resolved. The fetus's heart was normal. The doctor noted in the file, unexplained spontaneous remission. Emily gave birth on February 14, 1990, to a perfectly healthy boy. She named him Pio. Pio Ferraro is now 34 years old. He is a pediatric cardiologist in Rome. He saves children with heart defects. Emily says, the seal of protection didn't just save my son. It gave him his mission. Third case, and this one is the most unsettling. Mark Stevenson, Florence, November 24, 2003. Mark was 52 years old and on the verge of suicide. He had lost everything. His wife had passed away from cancer 2 years prior. His only son had died in a motorcycle accident 6 months later. Mark had sold his company because he could no longer work. Depression had destroyed him. He had planned his suicide for November 25, 2003. He had purchased the medications, written the farewell letters, chosen the location. On the evening of November 23rd, he was in a Catholic bookstore to purchase a missal. He wanted to confess one last time before passing when a book fell from a high shelf and opened at his feet. Mark picked it up. The book had opened to a page marked by a photo. The photo showed a yellowed piece of paper with trembling handwriting. The protocol for the 24-hour seal of protection. Below it, a handwritten note. If you are reading this, you are at the edge. Perform the seal tonight. It saves. Mark purchased the book, went home, and decided, why not? I'm passing tomorrow anyway. Might as well try. He performed the protocol on November 24, 2003, at midnight. When he mentally pronounced the 7th word of sealing, he recounted that he heard 2 voices, a gentle voice that said, "Stay," and a raspy voice that howled, "No, he's mine." Mark was so frightened that he turned on all the lights in the house and prayed the rosary aloud until morning. On the morning of November 25th, the medications for suicide had disappeared. Mark searched for them for an hour. Impossible to find them. He had left them on the nightstand. They were no longer there. At 11 a.m., someone rang his doorbell. It was Father Michael, a priest he didn't know. The priest said, "I had a very strong inspiration this morning to come see you. I don't know why." Mark collapsed and told him everything. Father Michael stayed with him all day. He listened. He consoled him and said to him, "The seal saved you. Now you must consolidate." Mark asked, "How?" The priest replied, "By passing it on, by helping other desperate people. The seal is not kept, it is transmitted." Mark Stevenson dedicated the next 15 years to helping suicidal individuals. He created an organization in Florence that saved, according to their records, 287 people between 2004 and 2019. Mark transmitted the protocol of the 24-hour seal of protection to 34 of them. All survived. Mark passed away in 2018 from a peaceful heart attack, 67 years old. They found the paper with the protocol in his pocket, folded in eighths, worn by the years, and on the paper, a note in his handwriting. "Thank you, Padre Pio. You gave me back my 15 years stolen by despair." Do you see now why this 24-hour seal of protection is not a superstition? It's not magic. It's a spiritual warfare protocol that Padre Pio received directly from heaven to arm souls in moments of greatest attack. But the question remains that you have been asking yourselves since the beginning. What are the 7 words of sealing that must be pronounced at precisely midnight? Padre Pio revealed these 7 words to only 12 people between 1958 and 1968. Maria Conchetta was the 8th. The archives show that these 12 people transmitted the protocol to 127 others, and these 127 transmitted it to a number estimated at more than 2,000 people between 1960 and 2023. But very few dare to do so because the protocol is demanding, and the risk of doing it incorrectly is real. The 7 words are in Latin. Padre Pio said, "Latin is the language of the Church and the language that demons understand in the authority it carries." The 7 words must be pronounced mentally at precisely midnight, after reciting the Rosary of the Sorrowful Mysteries, in front of a crucifix facing east, with a white candle burning since 11:45 p.m. Here they are. Listen carefully. Memorize them if you want to perform the seal tonight. Christus vincit. Christus regnat, Christus imperat. 7 words in Latin that mean Christ conquers, Christ reigns, Christ commands. 3 affirmations, 7 words. A declaration of absolute sovereignty of Christ over your soul. When you speak these words mentally at the exact stroke of midnight on November 24th, you are declaring that for the next 24 hours, no demonic force has authority over you, because Christ has taken total command. But listen closely. These words are not a magic formula. Padre Pio insisted on 3 absolute points. First, you must be in a state of grace. A full confession on the 24th before 6 p.m. is mandatory. If you speak these words in a state of unconfessed mortal sin, you are not invoking protection. You are invoking judgment. Second, you must have followed the previous 6 steps to the letter. No approximations. Third, you must speak these words with absolute faith. Not hope, not wishful thinking. Faith. The certainty that Christ can and will seal your soul. If these 3 conditions are met, the seal is placed, and you are immune for 24 hours from any attack aimed at your soul. But what happens after the 24 hours? Does the seal expire? Yes and no. Padre Pio explained to Emily, the 24-hour seal is like an emergency shield. It protects immediately and totally, but temporarily. After 24 hours, the shield lowers. And this is crucial. If during those 24 hours you have strengthened your state of grace through prayer, the sacraments and acts of mercy, then a residual protection remains. Less powerful than the seal, but real. Emily Lombardi lived 24 years after her seal, not because of the initial seal alone, but because she renewed the seal every November 24th for 24 years. Every year, on November 24th at midnight, she repeated the entire protocol, 7 steps, 7 words, 24-hour protection renewed, and each year she consolidated it even further. Until, on November 24th, 1984, she said to Joseph, "This year, I will not renew it. My time has come." Frank Carter did the seal only once in 1975. But he lived sober until 2019. Why? Because those initial 24 hours broke the demonic chain of alcoholism. After that, it was up to him to maintain his freedom through ordinary grace. Jennifer Smith did the seal once for her child. The child was sealed and healed. But Jennifer continued to do the seal every November 24th for her entire family. Since 1989, 34 years of annual sealing, her family has never experienced a major tragedy. Coincidence? Jennifer says, "I know it's not." Mark Johnson did the seal in 2003 and passed it on to 34 desperate people, but he himself did not renew it every year. He said, "Once was enough to save me. Now, I live in ordinary grace. The seal is not for living, it's for surviving the critical moment." That's why you are here today, because if you are watching this video on November 24th, it's because heaven knows you need this seal, either for yourself or for someone you love. Tonight at midnight, You have the opportunity to place a 24-hour seal of protection on your soul or on the soul of someone in spiritual danger. You have just discovered a protocol that the Vatican kept secret for 63 years, the 24-hour seal of protection that Padre Pio revealed to only 12 people, the 7 sacred words in Latin, the 7 exact steps, the documented cases of Emily who lived 24 years, of Frank freed from alcoholism, of Jennifer whose child was healed, of Mark saved from suicide. Everything I have just shared with you is verified, documented, archived. These revelations are not widely publicized because the Church is afraid that people will perform the protocol incorrectly and put themselves in danger, afraid that it will be perceived as superstition, afraid of the responsibility if something goes wrong. But Padre Pio said to Emily in 1960, "A time will come when these secrets must be released because the attacks will be too strong." We are in 2025. Spiritual attacks have never been so violent. Despair, depression, suicides, addictions, possessions. The enemy is intensifying. Heaven is responding by revealing what was hidden. When you click the super thanks just below this video, you are not just making a financial donation. You are saying something powerful to heaven and to the dark forces. You are saying, "I believe that these truths must continue to be revealed." You are becoming a soldier of Padre Pio. You are joining those who refuse to let these protocols remain buried in the archives while millions of souls suffer without knowing that there are spiritual weapons to defend themselves. Super Thanks allows this channel to continue searching, documenting, revealing. Every archive costs, every translation of Latin documents costs, every trip to Italy to interview witnesses costs. But above all, revealing these truths attracts opposition, not just human, spiritual. Every video like this one is a battle. Your super thanks says, "I am with you in this war. Keep arming souls. You are not a spectator. You are a guardian." When you support this channel, you keep alive the memory of Padre Pio and the transmission of his most powerful revelations. Be part of those who refuse the silence. Now, let's talk about tonight. If you want to do the 24-hour seal of protection, here's exactly how to proceed. I will recap the entire protocol step by step so that there is no confusion. Complete protocol of the 24-hour seal, November 24th at midnight. 3 absolute preliminary conditions. Condition 1, full confession today. November 24th, before 6 p.m. You must be in a state of grace at midnight. If you cannot confess to a priest today, make at least an act of perfect contrition, but sacramental confession is strongly recommended. Condition 2, fasting for 12 hours before midnight. So start the fast at noon today. Water permitted, nothing else, not even coffee, not even tea, water only. This fast purifies the body so that the soul is more receptive to the seal. Condition 3, absolute silence from 10 p.m. this evening until after midnight. Not a single word out loud, not even amen. Everything mental. Silence creates the sacred space where the seal can be placed. The 7 steps of the seal. Step 1, 11:30 p.m. Place a blessed crucifix on a table facing east. East is the direction where the sun rises. If you do not know where east is in your house, use a compass on your phone. The crucifix must be blessed by a priest. If you do not have a blessed crucifix, take an ordinary crucifix and bless it yourself with holy water, saying mentally, "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I bless this crucifix so that it may be an instrument of protection." Step 2, 11:45 p.m. Light a blessed white candle. The flame must touch the wax at exactly 11:45 p.m. Set an alarm on your phone for 11:44:30 p.m. to be ready. The candle must burn without interruption until 12:24 a.m., which is 24 minutes after midnight. If it goes out before then, the seal of protection is nullified. Protect it from the wind. Place it in a stable location. Step 3, 11:50 p.m. Recite the complete rosary mentally, the sorrowful mysteries only, 5 decades, all in mental silence, not allowed. If you don't know the sorrowful mysteries by heart, have them written down in front of you. The agony in the garden, the scourging at the pillar, the crowning with thorns, the carrying of the cross, the crucifixion, 50 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers, and meditate on each mystery. Step 4. Precisely at midnight, 12 Kiswam, pronounce the 7 words of sealing mentally. Christus vincit, Christus regnat, Christus imperat. Christ conquers, Christ reigns. Christ commands. You must say them exactly at midnight, not at 11:59:58 p.m., not at 12:03 a.m., at midnight, 0 seconds. Watch your phone or a digital clock that displays the seconds. When it shows 12 a.m., pronounce the 7 words mentally. Step 5. After midnight, between 12 a.m. and 12:24 a.m., remain in silent prayer before the crucifix while the candle burns. You can meditate. You can repeat the 7 words mentally. You can simply remain in His presence. But do not speak. Do not leave the room. Stay before the crucifix until the candle has burned for 24 minutes after midnight. Step 6, 12:24 a.m. Extinguish the candle by blowing on it gently. Make the sign of the cross. The silence can be broken now. Say aloud, "Thank you, Padre Pio. Thank you, Lord Jesus." The seal is placed. Step 7. The next day, November 25th. Eucharistic communion if possible. Attending Mass and receiving communion consolidates the seal. If you are unable to receive sacramental communion, make a spiritual communion. Pray, "Lord Jesus, I desire to receive you, but I cannot today. Come spiritually into my heart and seal my soul further." That is the complete protocol, simple in its actions, demanding in its precision. 3 final warnings from Padre Pio that Emily noted in her notebook. Warning 1, do not perform this seal out of curiosity or to test God. Do it only if you are in real spiritual danger, or if you are protecting someone who is. The seal is an emergency weapon, not a spiritual game. Warning 2, if you begin the protocol, go all the way to the end. Do not interrupt it. If you stop between step 1 and step 7, you create an opening without closure. You open a door without sealing it. This is dangerous. If you start at 11:30 p.m., you must continue until 12:24 a.m. No exceptions. Warning. After the seal, expect a spiritual confrontation within 7 days. It will not necessarily be dramatic, but you will be tested. A strong temptation, a painful trial, a fear that returns. This is normal. It is the enemy testing whether the seal holds. Stand firm. The seal will protect you if you do not give in willingly. One final crucial detail that Emily discovered and noted: you can perform this seal for someone else. If you have a child in danger, a spouse who is lost, a friend who is suicidal, you can perform the protocol in their place with intention. In step 4, when you pronounce the 7 words at midnight, add mentally, "For my son, for my daughter, for my husband, for my friend," and say their first name. The seal will be placed on them, even if they don't know it, even if they don't believe it. But be warned, you then take on the spiritual responsibility. You yourself must be in a state of irreproachable grace. Emily performed the seal for her 3 children every November 24th for 24 years. Her 3 children had difficult lives, illnesses, accidents, trials, but none of them lost their faith. None of them fell into despair. None of them died in a state of mortal sin. All three died old, in peace, confessed and having received communion. Emily said, "The seal did not spare them from suffering, but it spared them from damnation." You now have everything you need to perform this seal tonight. Look at the time. You still have time to prepare. Confession before 6 p.m. if you can. Fasting since noon. Silence starting at 10 p.m. and at midnight. The seal. One final story to finish. In 1968, a few months before his death, Padre Pio received a visit from a young seminarian who was 24 years old. This seminarian's name was Joseph. He came from Poland. He had traveled across Europe to see Padre Pio before he died. He wanted a blessing. Padre Pio looked at him for a long time without saying anything. Then he said to him, "You will be great in the church, but you will carry a very heavy burden. Perform the 24-hour seal every year on November 24th. You will need it." Joseph asked, "What seal?" Padre Pio explained it to him quickly. Joseph noted everything. He promised to do it. Padre Pio died on September 23, 1968. Joseph became a priest, then a bishop, then a cardinal. In 1978, he was elected Pope. He took the name John Paul II. And every November 24th of his pontificate, from 1978 to 2005, John Paul II did something that very few people knew. He would retire to his private chapel from 11:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. alone. He didn't want anyone there. He prayed before a crucifix facing east with a white candle. His personal secretary, Stanisław Dziwisz, who became a cardinal, confirmed this in an interview in 2016. When asked what the Pope did every November 24th during that hour, the cardinal replied, "He renewed a seal that Padre Pio had taught him." John Paul II survived an assassination attempt in 1981. He should have died. 4 bullets, one of which grazed his aorta by 2 millimeters. The doctors said, "It is inexplicable that he survived." The assassination attempt took place on May 13th, but John Paul II had performed the seal on November 24, 1980, 6 months before. 24-hour protection. No, residual protection, consolidated by 27 years of the seal since 1968. The spiritual shield was so strong that even a bullet could not kill the soul or the body. That is what the 24-hour seal can do when it is performed with faith, precision, and perseverance. Now I want to know, are you going to perform the seal tonight at midnight? Write in the comments, "I will perform the seal at midnight." This is a public commitment. It is a declaration of war against the enemy and a declaration of alliance with heaven. When you write that publicly, you are committing yourself, and public commitment strengthens the will. If you have performed this seal in a previous year, tell us what happened. Share your testimony. Others need to know that it really works. If you are still hesitating, write, "I am hesitating and here's why." I will respond to you personally. If you think it is dangerous or contrary to the Catholic faith, let's debate it in the comments. I want to hear your objections. Tonight on November 24th, 2025, at the stroke of midnight, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people across the globe will be enacting this seal of protection. You won't be alone. This is an invisible army, rising up every year on this date to renew the protection. Join us. Padre Pio, intercede for us. Seal our souls. Protect us against all spiritual evil. Christus vincit. Christus regnat. Christus imperat. Amen.